Very rarely in life, we experience a moment that feels different from the rest. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with fireworks or dramatic changes. It often arrives quietly, almost shyly, as if it's not sure it's welcome. It might happen late at night, when the world feels slower and softer. Maybe it's a warm summer evening, the air still, the streets almost empty. Or maybe it comes after a period of illness, exhaustion, or emotional burnout, when we're simply relieved to be breathing normally again. Sometimes it comes through art, a book that says something we've never been able to put into words, a piece of music that somehow reaches a place inside us we forgot existed, or a walk taken alone, without headphones, without a destination, just movement. And then, without warning, a thought enters the mind. A strange thought, a dangerous thought, a hopeful thought. What if life didn't always have to feel this hard? What if sadness and anxiety weren't our natural state? What if they weren't permanent features of who we are? What if they were learned and therefore changeable? For a brief moment, the world looks different. We notice things we usually rush past. Trees don't look like background objects anymore. The sky feels closer. Strangers' faces seem more interesting, more human. There's a sense that life might be richer than we've allowed ourselves to believe. And then, without warning, another question enters. What if we could feel more connected to people, to ourselves, to being alive? What if we didn't have to keep so much distance? What if we didn't always have to protect ourselves from disappointment? What if we could soften just a little? What if we let ourselves love and allowed ourselves to be loved? In these moments, we catch a glimpse of joy, not excitement, not pleasure, not escape, but a deeper kind of joy, a quiet joy, a grounded joy, a feeling of being okay in the world. But these moments never last long. Almost immediately, another voice appears, a familiar voice. It tells us to calm down, to stop romanticizing things, to be realistic. It reminds us of responsibilities, bills to pay, work to do, people who disappoint us, relationships that are complicated or draining, the endless maintenance of daily life. And beneath all of that, it delivers its strongest message. Life is hard. Life is unfair. Suffering is inevitable, and expecting too much only leads to pain. This voice often sounds wise. It sounds mature. It sounds like it knows better. And in many ways, it does, because it has protected us for a long time. But what if this voice isn't the voice of truth? What if it's the voice of adaptation? Many of us did not grow up in environments where happiness felt safe. As children, we may have learned, without anyone saying it directly, that joy was temporary, suspicious, or inappropriate, that laughter was loud, that excitement was risky, that hope led to disappointment. Our parents might have been anxious, angry, emotionally unavailable, or overwhelmed by their own lives, not because they didn't care, but because they didn't know how to care in the way we needed. So we adjusted. We learned to lower our expectations. We learned not to ask for too much. We learned to stay quiet emotionally. We learned to survive, not to flourish. And over time, this became our personality. We started to believe that being serious meant being strong, that worrying meant being responsible, that sadness meant depth, and that happiness was shallow, naive, or unrealistic. We didn't notice when this happened. No one explained it to us. It just slowly became normal. And now, as adults, we live according to rules that were written for a very different stage of life. Rules designed to help a child survive emotional scarcity, not to help an adult experience fulfillment. So when happiness shows up, even briefly, we don't know what to do with it. We feel suspicious, uncomfortable, almost guilty. We wonder when it will disappear. We brace ourselves for disappointment. We pull back before it gets too close. Because closeness feels dangerous. Hope feels dangerous. Joy feels dangerous. But what if the danger is outdated? What if the world we're living in now is not the world our nervous system is responding to? What if our sadness is not a reflection of reality, but a habit formed long ago? This doesn't mean life suddenly becomes easy. It doesn't mean pain disappears. It doesn't mean loss and disappointment stop happening. But it does mean we might be carrying more weight than we need to. It means we might be exhausting ourselves by staying loyal to suffering. What if we allowed ourselves to imagine a different orientation towards life? Not constant happiness, not forced positivity, not denial of pain, but a gentler baseline. What if we entered friendships believing they could nourish us instead of preparing for betrayal? What if we chose partners who felt emotionally safe instead of familiar in a painful way? What if we stopped confusing intensity with love and calm with boredom? What if we let ourselves rest inside relationships instead of constantly proving our worth? And then comes the thought that feels almost forbidden. What if we are not here to suffer? What if suffering is not our purpose? What if it's not a requirement for depth, intelligence, or meaning? What if the pain we carry belongs to a past we didn't choose and not to the future we're still allowed to shape? This idea can feel unsettling, even frightening, because if suffering isn't inevitable, then change becomes possible, and change brings responsibility. It means we can no longer blame everything on life being cruel. It means we might have to grieve the years we spent unnecessarily guarded. It means we might have to learn new ways of being, slowly, awkwardly, imperfectly. But it also means something else. It means joy might not be a miracle. It might be a skill we were never taught. We won't change overnight. We won't suddenly trust everyone. We won't suddenly feel light every day. But every time we choose openness over withdrawal, every time we choose kindness over self-protection, every time we allow ourselves to believe that something good could last, we take a step towards a fuller life. A life that isn't perfect, but one that feels more honest, more alive, more ours. And maybe that's all happiness really is. Not constant pleasure, not endless excitement, but the quiet permission to be here without fear.